also called the Butcher of Plainfield and the Plainfield Ghoul, serial killer Ed Gein is one of the most infamous serial killers in American history by a mile. So, it's not surprising that Ian Brennan saw fit to chronicle this horrifying man's actions for the third season of Ryan Murphy's monster anthology series on Netflix, specifically titled Monster. The Ed Gein story. The miniseries stars Sons of Anarchy, standout Charlie Hunnam as the killer himself, alongside a supporting cast that includes Vicky Creeps, known for Phantom Thread and Old, The White Lotus, supporting player Tom Hollander, and TV legend Laurie Metcalf, among others. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Gein, as you might know, inspired villains in major horror movies like Psycho, serving as the blueprint for Anthony Perkins' unsettling mama's boy, Norman Bates. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Leatherface makes for an oddly perfect Gein stand-in. And perhaps most notably, The Silence of the Lambs, where Ted Levine's Buffalo Bill pays strange homage to the prolific murderer. As with any adaptation, some details were changed about Gein's story, and some were left out entirely, including specific ones concerning Gein's father, some inconsistencies about a potential girlfriend, and the truth about the shrine to his mother, an aspect of Gein that was infamously repurposed for Psycho. We see plenty of Ed Gein's severe and religious mother, Augusta Gein, Laurie Metcalf, in Monster, the Ed Gein story. But it does omit a crucial piece of lore about the murderer, and it involves some seriously awful details about his father. According to the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal, Gein's father, George Philip Gein, was an alcoholic who routinely abused a young Ed as well as his brother Henry, who was the older of the two. George Gein passed away in 1940 from heart failure, with no potential foul play involved. In the narrative of Monster, the Ed Gein story, Charlie Hunnam's Ed is overcome with rage when his brother Henry, Hudson Oz, reveals that he's going to leave Ed, Augusta, and the Gein family farm behind to run away with a woman that he loves. Furious, Ed hits his brother in the head with a heavy log, and though it's not clear whether or not he actually intended to kill Henry, the damage is done. So Ed sets a fire surrounding his brother's dead body to cover up the crime. The reality is probably different, though History.com, in Gein's bio, notes that his brother Henry died in a fire under mysterious circumstances in 1944. Encyclopedia Britannica says that the brothers constantly clashed, specifically over Augusta. Ed was a devoted follower of their mother's strict teachings, believing her horrible stances on unmarried women and sin, while Henry was more dubious of her claims. It's also noted here that Henry Gein's cause of death was officially ruled as asphyxiation, not a blow to the head, which likely means that the show took a liberty here. Still, Henry Gein never got an autopsy, so we may never know. One of the biggest discrepancies in Monster. The Ed Gein story centers around Adeline Watkins, a woman the real Ed Gein may or may not have dated. In the series, played by Susanna Son, Fear Street, prom queen, Adeline is disturbingly complicit in Ed's crimes. She's aware of his violent tendencies, encourages them, and even suggests that he might enjoy necrophilia, one of the show's most unsettling moments. In reality, Adeline's relationship with Gein was far less intense. She claimed to know nothing about his violent acts. In a reprinted Minneapolis Tribune article, Watkins described Gein as good and kind and sweet, saying their talks were mostly about famous serial killers and how they were caught. She never hinted at knowing more. While skeptics argue she could have lied, there's little evidence suggesting she was involved. Watkins later minimized the seriousness of their relationship via People magazine, reinforcing the idea that she was an innocent bystander rather than an accomplice. What was really happening with Ed Gein's shrine to his late mother? Every depiction of Ed Gein revolves around his mother, Augusta, portrayed in Monster by Laurie Metcalf. A 1,957 Time magazine article described Augusta as a domineering and fanatically religious woman who blamed loose women for society's decay and warned that their sins would cause another biblical flood. Her strict control over the family profoundly shaped Ed's views of women and his later crimes. After Augusta's death in 1945 from a stroke, Gein's obsession with her deepened. In Monster, this manifests as a horrifying shrine, echoing scenes from Psycho, where Adeline discovers Augusta's preserved corpse on the Gein farm. But the truth was less cinematic. According to Investigation Discovery, Gein simply boarded up his mother's room, leaving it untouched and meticulously preserved. His real-life depravity targeted other women not Augusta's remains. The show's version exaggerates this element for dramatic impact, blending fact and fiction to heighten its psychological horror. The final major inaccuracy in Monster concerns Gein's grave. The miniseries ends with a grotesque scene where morbid fans picnic beside his headstone before stealing it using a truck. While the theft did happen, it unfolded less dramatically in real life. Monster. The Ed Gein story remains faithful to the core of Gein's disturbing legacy, his warped relationship with his mother and the crimes that horrified America while taking creative liberties with supporting figures like Adeline Watkins and sensational moments like the grave theft. The series dramatizes these elements to build tension, but reality paints a subtler, equally chilling picture of isolation, repression, and obsession. Plot summary of Longlegs. At the beginning of the film, a mysterious man known as Longlegs, Nicolas Cage, visits a young girl named Lee Harker, Lauren Akala, at her home. Though little is revealed about him at first, his erratic and unsettling demeanor hints at something deeply wrong. Over time, we learn that Longlegs was once a doll maker who fell under the influence of the devil. He crafted eerie dolls containing chrome orbs that held Lucifer's essence. On the 9th birthdays of young girls, he would deliver these dolls to their homes. Once inside, the dolls would possess the fathers, driving them to murder their families, part of a demonic ritual carried out through Longlegs. Because Longlegs himself couldn't easily approach families, he needed a helper. Years earlier, during his visit to Lee's home, he recruited her mother, Ruth, Alicia Witt. To save her daughter, Ruth agreed to deliver the cursed dolls disguised as gifts from the church, dressing as a nun to appear trustworthy. Years later, the adult Lee Harker, Micah Monroe, now an FBI agent, investigates a series of identical family murders. Her investigation ultimately reveals that Longlegs had been living in her childhood home's basement the entire time, explaining his nickname, the Man Downstairs. Ending explained. As Lee uncovers the truth, she realizes that Lucifer's final plan is unfolding. Her boss, Agent Carter, Blair Underwood, becomes the next target when Ruth delivers a doll to his home. The doll's demonic influence causes Carter to murder his wife, but Lee arrives in time and shoots him before he can kill his daughter. Ruth then attacks, attempting to finish the ritual by killing the child herself. In a devastating climax, Lee is forced to shoot and kill her own mother, ending both Ruth's life and the devil's plan. The film closes with Lee confronting the unbearable truth about her family's involvement and the evil that had lived beneath her home all along. Who is Longlegs, and why does he look like that? Even after the credits roll, Longlegs remains largely enigmatic. Before meeting the devil, he was an ordinary man named Dale Ferdinand Cobble, a failed musician who underwent botched plastic surgery in an attempt to preserve his youth. His disfigured, pale face, along with his glam rock-inspired costumes and white makeup, gives him an eerie, almost theatrical look. Why the name Longlegs? The film never explicitly explains the origin of the name. In one early scene, Longlegs tells young Lee, "I have my long legs on today," as he bends down to speak with her, suggesting the name could be literal or symbolic. Director Oz Perkins later admitted that the word simply sounded right, evoking a 1,970 seconds vibe. Still, many viewers see a deeper metaphor. The name may allude to Daddy Longlegs, tying into the film's themes of fatherhood and family corruption. The possessed fathers and the dolls treated by Longlegs as his children echo this twisted parental motif. With Lee's father absent, Longlegs becomes a perverse father figure, inserting himself into her family and shaping her fate. In short, Longlegs is a demonic thriller about inheritance, corruption, and the darkness lurking within family bonds. Through Lee's horrifying discovery, the film exposes how evil can live quietly beneath a home waiting for the next generation to open the door. Why Longlegs targets girls born on the 14th. Agent Lee Harker's investigation reveals a disturbing pattern. Every murdered family had a daughter whose birthday fell on the 14th of the month. The killings always occurred within 6 days of that date. When Harker charts the dates on paper, she notices they form an inverted triangle, a symbol associated with the devil. Longlegs' ritual murders are thus designed to honor Satan, the Dark Master directing his actions. The birthday timing also provides Ruth, Harker's mother and Longlegs' accomplice, a plausible reason to deliver the cursed dolls as birthday gifts from the church. Biblical numerology adds another layer. The recurring verse from Revelation 13:2-1, "And I saw a beast rise out of the sea," hints at demonic rebirth and blasphemy. When the chapter and verse numbers 13 plus 1 are added together, they total 14, giving the date symbolic significance within the devil's plan. Ironically, Harker's boss, Agent Carter, fails to recognize the pattern, even though his own daughter's birthday is on the 14th, sealing his fate by the film's end. Why Ruth shoots the doll? From the film's opening, Lee Harker displays faint psychic abilities, accurately sensing danger and solving investigative puzzles that baffle the FBI. These powers originate from her childhood doll, modeled after her by Longlegs himself. When Longlegs spared Lee's life years earlier, her mother Ruth secretly kept the doll, which contained a fragment of Lucifer's essence. In the climax, Ruth finally shoots the doll in the head, releasing black smoke that rises from both the doll and Lee, causing Lee to collapse. This scene reveals that her psychic connection and her repressed memories stemmed from the doll's satanic energy. The doll's destruction severs the connection but also exposes the truth. The devil had been influencing both mother and daughter all along. Why didn't Ruth destroy the doll earlier? The film leaves this ambiguous, but the implication is simple. The devil prevented her from doing so, binding her to his will until the end. Lee's final act, killing both her boss and her own mother, fulfills the devil's cruelest intention, leaving her alive but broken, haunted by the evil that claimed her family. The hidden glimpses of the devil throughout the movie reinforce this dreadful omnipresence, suggesting that every horror was being watched, planned, and relished from the shadows. The meaning behind Longlegs. Understanding Longlegs requires knowing Oz Perkins' past. The son of actor Anthony Perkins, Psycho, and model Barry Berenson, Oz grew up in a household marked by secrets. His father, a gay man who underwent conversion therapy, lived in hiding until his death from AIDS-related complications, while his mother concealed the truth. Longlegs mirrors that pain. It's a story about how parents' desperate efforts to protect their children can destroy them instead. Perkins told IndieWire that all his work reflects his own experience with his parents' darkness. Beneath its demonic surface, Longlegs is a haunting portrait of inherited trauma, where evil isn't just supernatural but familial.